A story from the Velveteen Rabbit, or How Toys Become Real. There was once a Velveteen Rabbit, and in the beginning he was really splendid. He was fat and bunchy as a rabbit should be. His coat was spotted brown and white. He had real thread whiskers, and his ears were lined with pink sateen. On Christmas morning, when he sat wedged in the top of the boy's stocking, with a sprig of holly between his paws, the effect was charming. There were other things in the stocking, nuts and oranges and a toy engine and chocolate almonds and a clockwork mouse. But the rabbit was quite the best of all. For at least 2 hours the boy loved him. And then aunts and uncles came to dinner, and there was a great rustling of tissue paper and unwrapping of parcels. And in the excitement of looking at all the new presents, the Velveteen Rabbit was forgotten. For a long time he lived in the toy cupboard or on the nursery floor, and no one thought very much about him. He was naturally shy, and being only made of velveteen, some of the more expensive toys quite snubbed him. The mechanical toys were very superior and looked down upon everyone else. They were full of modern ideas and pretended they were real. The model boat, who had lived through 2 seasons and lost most of his paint, caught the tone from them and never missed an opportunity of referring to his rigging in technical terms. The rabbit could not claim to be a model of anything, for he didn't know that real rabbits existed. He thought they were all stuffed with sawdust, like himself, and he understood that sawdust was quite out of date and should never be mentioned in modern circles. Even Timothy, the jointed wooden lion, who was made by the disabled soldiers and should have had broader views, put on airs and pretended he was connected with government. Between them all, the poor little rabbit was made to feel himself very insignificant and commonplace. And the only person who was kind to him at all was the Skin Horse. The Skin Horse had lived longer in the nursery than any of the others. He was so old that his brown coat was bald in patches and showed the seams underneath, and most of the hairs in his tail had been pulled out to string bead necklaces. He was wise, for he had seen a long succession of mechanical toys arrive to boast and swagger, and by break their mainsprings and pass away, and he knew they were only toys, and would never turn into anything else. For nursery magic is very strange and wonderful, and only those playthings that are old and wise and experienced, like the Skin Horse, understood all about it. So this story is about a stuffed rabbit sewn from velveteen, which is a sort of smooth, soft cotton, and given as a Christmas present to a small boy. The boy plays with his other new presents and forgets the Velveteen Rabbit for a time. These other presents are modern and mechanical, and they rudely ignore the old-fashioned Velveteen Rabbit. The wisest and oldest toy in the nursery, the Skin Horse, who was owned by the boy's uncle, tells the Velveteen Rabbit that toys can magically become real when children love them enough. The rabbit is very impressed by this idea. However, he feels he has very little chance of being loved so much that he becomes real. One night, the boy's nana gives the rabbit to the boy to sleep with in place of a lost mechanical toy. The rabbit becomes the boy's favourite toy, snuggling in the boy's bed, enjoying picnics with him in the spring, playing in the garden in pretend rabbit burrows, and enjoying lots of other things. The boy talks to the rabbit a lot and thinks of the rabbit as real. Time passes, and the rabbit becomes shabbier, worn smooth and shiny, and he is happy. But in the summer he meets some real rabbits, and realizes that he cannot hop and move as they do, and so he knows he is not, in fact, a real rabbit. One day, the boy becomes ill with scarlet fever, which at the time this book was written was a very serious illness. The rabbit sits with him as the boy recovers. When the boy is a bit better, the doctor orders that the boy should be taken to the seaside to help him get really well and strong, and that his room should be disinfected, meaning that all the boy's books and toys should be burnt, including the Velveteen Rabbit. The rabbit is bundled into a sack and left out in the garden overnight, where he is sad as he thinks about his life with the boy coming to an end. The Velveteen Rabbit is so unhappy that he cries, and a real tear drops onto the ground, whereupon a marvellous flower appears. A radiant, shining fairy steps out of the flower and comforts the Velveteen Rabbit, introducing herself as the Nursery Magic Fairy. She tells the rabbit that because he has become real to the boy who truly loves him, she will take him away with her and turn him into a rabbit who is real to everyone. The fairy takes the rabbit to the forest, where they meet other rabbits, and she gives the Velveteen Rabbit a kiss. Suddenly, the Velveteen Rabbit changes into a real rabbit, and he finds he can hop and move like a real rabbit. He joins the other rabbits in the forest. Next spring, the rabbit returns to see the boy. The boy sees a real rabbit with a strange resemblance to his old Velveteen Rabbit, and he fondly remembers what was once his favourite toy. So going back to the book again, he was a real rabbit at last, at home with the other rabbits. Autumn passed, and winter, and in the spring, when the days grew warm and sunny, the boy went out to play in the wood behind the house. And while he was playing, the two rabbits crept out from the bracken and peeped at him. One of them was brown all over, but the other had strange markings under his fur, as though long ago he'd been spotted, and the spots still showed through. And about his little soft nose and his round black eyes there was something familiar, so that the boy thought to himself, "Why, he looks just like my old bunny that I lost when I had scarlet fever." But he never knew that it really was his own bunny, come back to look at the child who had first helped him to be real. Perhaps older children and adults will see the analogy in this story. It's an analogy with Jesus' unconditional love for us and our life in heaven afterwards if we have faith. In the story, the Velveteen Rabbit was described as fat and bunchy, and that was exactly how he was meant to be. But he was bullied for being a stuffed toy. He wasn't fancy like the other toys in the nursery, and he couldn't hop and skip like the rabbits in the garden. Bullied from all directions, the rabbit learned to ignore the people who were unkind and to value his friendships with the boy and the skin horse. So a message for us is you don't need someone else's love to validate you, but you also don't need anyone else to tell you who you are. The rabbit doesn't need the garden rabbits to tell him he's real, and he doesn't need the boy to keep loving him in order to stay that way. Once he recognizes his own realness, the rabbit then has the confidence to be his own person. As the skin horse tells the rabbit, "Love will take off most of your hair and your eyes drop out and you get loose in the joints and very shabby." Love is hard work, and we can all identify with that. But even though it isn't easy, love is absolutely worth it in the end. Love and life take a lot of strength to work through. The Skin Horse says that not many people who break easily or have sharp edges or have to be carefully kept actually become real, because they simply can't manage it. We need to look for inner strength, and Christians gain this through being accepted and loved by God. Even after he's real and living with the garden rabbits, the Velveteen Rabbit still comes back to visit the boy whose love gave him a real life. He could easily have forgotten the boy living in Rabbit Land, but he didn't. For Christians, that is a comforting thought for us all. The end.